What's up, CFO gang? It's your boy Jay Tuck. Real Cowboys fans, stand up and yo, today is Tuesday. Today is the day where NFL teams must cut down to their final 53 roster. And before we kind of start, man, I want to say to the players, right? Because we do have players, families, and sometimes players might poke their head in. But, today, your name might not get called, man. It's a part of sports, it's a part of competition, but most importantly, it's a part of life. Understand that this is just a bump in the road. This is not the end of your journey. So best of luck to all the players out there. It takes a lot of sacrifice to play at the ultimate level of the NFL. But if your name isn't called on the roster today, your journey does not end. Keep pushing, keep thriving. But for the Cowboys, we got a lot to talk about, a lot of interesting nuggets. And I know that we did a live show the other night. The whole thing, a lot of things changed, y'all, since the other night when we did that live show. A lot of things have changed. We got a new backup quarterback. We got this. We got a lot to talk about. So I had to pull out my Sharpie and go ahead and make a few adjustments to my prediction now. Will I be the wizard again? Will the wizard strike again? I don't know. Normally, I'm the draft wizard. Draft time is when the wizard really strikes. Final 53, it gets a little tricky. But before we start, I want you guys to remember one very important detail when it comes to the Final 53 roster, because we are going to use this loophole, right? So what I want you to understand is a so-called vested veteran waiver, where it's like, okay, if you've played in the league for more than 4 years, more than 4 years under your belt, right? If you're not on the 53 roster, you don't go to waivers, right? You don't go in the recycle bin with everyone else. You get to negotiate, which means the Cowboys can cut a guy who's been in the league for quite some time as a veteran, call him on the phone and say, come on back, right? So keep that nugget in mind, because I think the Cowboys are definitely going to use that today, and they also used it in previous years. But let's start with the offense, right? So as y'all know, like I said, we got a new young quarterback in the house, and I did a video on it, the numerous videos on Trey Lance. Trey Lance has to be on that active 53. So that takes a slot away. So you're going to have Dak Prescott and Trey Lance, I believe. I believe they're going to use that veteran clause with Cooper Rush, where they may cut Coop, may re-sign Coop, but we'll see, because they did also re-sign Coop in the offseason. Will they keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster? I don't know. Doesn't sound like what they typically do. Last year, they only kept Dak Prescott, but you can't do that again with Trey Lance, because you put Trey Lance on the waivers. I mean, that'd just be idiotic, right? So you have Dak Prescott and Trey Lance. Now, the running back, this is where I made some tweaks. Originally, I had Tony Pollard, Deuce Vaughn, and Rico Dowdle. Right, I had to cut my guy Malik Davis. I had to cut my guy Malik, man. But it just is what it is. Malik just didn't have the camp or the preseason that I kind of expected, and didn't get a lot of reps. And that was very evident on Saturday, because they put Hunter Luepke on full display and put Malik Davis on the back shelf. So I think Malik Davis is going to be a guy that the Cowboys will ultimately cut. Maybe get him through the waivers again, But honestly, if I'm Malik Davis, bro, I'm done with the Cowboys. I'm telling my agent, bro, I'm not going back there, fam. I'm just not. They're not giving me my opportunity to play. You saw how they did me in the playoffs. They saw how you did. I'm just not. So I don't think Malik Davis is going to make the cut. But here's the tricky part, right? I don't understand it, right? I really don't understand it, unless the Cowboys already knew they were keeping this kid. But Hunter Luepke got to be on the roster. Hunter Luepke has to be on the final 53. No ifs and buts about it. I'm not going to play games. So he's just a running back. No, bro, y'all put Hunter Luepke on full display for the whole wide world to see. That's fresh in a lot of people's minds. It was just Saturday. It's fresh in a lot of people's minds. I am not playing games with Hunter Luepke, so I'm adding Hunter Luepke on the roster and keeping 4 running backs. It just is what it is. So if I'm going to keep 4 running backs, then I'm only going to keep 3 tight ends. So my edit is Sean McKeon. So I'm going Hunter Luepke over Sean McKeon. I feel like Sean McKeon will be a guy that you can probably get through waivers, get him back on the roster, right? Wide receivers, I still have my same wide receivers. Nothing changed. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert. Jalen Tolbert didn't even play Saturday, y'all. Jalen Tolbert didn't play Saturday. He's good. Jalen Tolbert's good, man. Kevontae Turpin, and I do have Jalen Brooks. Offensive line, due to the injury of Josh Ball, it opened up an opportunity. Matt Farniok will be on the roster, and also they cut Alex Lindstrom, who was our other center, a guy who I was very high on. I like the kid, right? But they cut him, so Matt Farniok will be our only backup center. But that also makes room for my guy TJ Bass to pretty much be a lock when it comes to making this Cowboys roster. So offensively, that is what I have, right? As far as who is going to make the final 53 roster. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes. And honestly, things didn't move much defensively, but when it comes to defense, right? I think when it comes to defensive ends, you have DeMarcus Lawrence, you got Sam Williams, get your mind right. Sam Williams, get your mind right. Dorrance Armstrong, who I think they're going to keep and not trade, right? I think they're going to have Dorrance Armstrong. Dante Fowler was an interesting one. I was going to kind of, because you can use the veteran waive clause with Fowler as well and possibly renegotiate and bring him back. But I'm keeping Fowler because he's had an outstanding camp. And then Viliami Fioco, Junior Fioco, I'm keeping him at the defensive end. Safeties, I'm going J-Ron, I'm going Malik Hooker, I'm going Donovan Wilson, I'm going Marquise Bell, who's once again your hybrid slash safety slash linebacker. Izzy McQuamu, now my guy Skywalker Steele from A to Z Sports. That's a fantastic morning show, one of my favorites. Like that's my brother, man. Salute to Sky, man. Got a lot of great things going on in his life, man. I'm proud. He had me kind of worried about Israel McQuamu, like, because they cut Israel McQuamu. And I was watching, the game Saturday. I'm like, it's the fourth quarter and Izzy is still out there. I'm getting worried. Keep your eye on Israel McQuamu, but I would probably flip if they cut Izzy, because Izzy gives you the versatility not only as a safety, but also as a cornerback who played in the playoffs at corner and played well. I'm keeping Izzy. And then Wanye Thomas, outstanding camp, extremely athletic, special teams guy, a safety that can do a lot of different things. I think Wanye has earned his roster spot. Defensive tackles, you have Big Mozzie. You know what's funny to me about Mozzie Smith? Right, the second preseason game, it was just, he's a buzz. Oh, Mozzie, Mozzie, right? The Mozzie comes out Saturday, plays outstanding versus the Raiders. Crickets, nothing, no noise, no talking, no nothing, right? So once again, it was just noise, and pollution about Mozzie Smith not being able to do this, and he was a bust, and the Cowboys made a mistake, and then when he plays well, it's nothing, right? It's nothing. It's silence. It's silence. There's no noise. There's no nothing about Mozzie. So you're not going to talk about how well Mozzie played on Saturday versus the Raiders. We're going to talk about the negatives. I regress, but it just is what it is. So Mozzie Smith, Big Hankins, Osa. I'm keeping Quentin Bohanna. I'm also going to keep Chauncey Golston, and I'm also going to try to keep Neville Gallimore, right? I want a lot of wood for the fire, right? So I'm keeping Neville Gallimore if I can, and the way that I constructed my roster, you can keep them, right? Linebackers, Micah Parsons, line ain't going nowhere. You have LVE, Jabril Cox. Now, Jabril Cox is a name to kind of keep an eye out for. I know Michael Gelkin has mentioned that possibly he could be cut or moved on. But right now, y'all, our linebacker room is just a little too thin. Just a little too thin for my liking. I'm keeping Brillo, Isaiah Land. If Isaiah Land is cut, I riot. If Isaiah Land is cut and they play foolish games and win foolish prizes with Isaiah Land, I riot. Damone Clark and Devin Harper. Cornerbacks, here's where the fun happens. Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, Deron Bland, Eric Scott Jr., right? Here's the thing that we don't know, and salute to my guy, Patrick Nosey Walker. He's saying that Jay Lou was going to be good to go week 1 versus the New York Giants. I'm like, man, Jay Lou has been on the course, hasn't practiced, hasn't gotten any reps. Do you want to just toss him out there like that? Or do you want to stash him on PUP? He doesn't count towards the 53, right? and then you get him back in 4 weeks. Me personally, that's how I would pursue J. Lou, right? I don't want to just toss him out there and rush him. But if J. Lou is active and the Cowboys keep J. Lou, then that means you'll probably move on from Kelvin Joseph, right? That's where I'm thinking that, because you don't need 3 inside guys, right? You don't need Bland, Lewis, and Kelvin Joseph. I think they would move on from Kelvin Joseph if that is the case with J. Lou. So J. Lou holds that key. But if you do what I'm thinking you should do by putting Jordan Lewis on PUP, then Kelvin Joseph will be on the roster, and I think the Cowboys move on from Nahshon Wright. So like I said, a lot to talk about. Of course, we're going to go live tonight and go through the roster, and they're probably going to butcher this whole thing, right? But just from my lens, if I wanted to kind of put the best roster, the final 53 together, this is kind of some ways I would do it. Now, understand, this is not going to be our week 1 team. This is not going to be set in stone, right? Probably by Wednesday or Thursday of this week, we'll get the real, like, okay, our real roster. This is more strategic moves to make sure that we don't lose guys, but we're definitely going to be talking about it tonight. So that's why you got to subscribe. That's why you got to comment, man. So I appreciate all support. Follow me on all social media platforms at jtuck151. Comment, subscribe to the channel. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers thanks to you, and we're going to get there, man. So I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, stay encouraged. And don't y'all play no foolish games with Isaiah Lynn. I promise. Our tonight's show is going to be explosive. Peace.